Good afternoon, and welcome to the Thursday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and we'll be joined by our attorney, Robert Bly, for the Q&A after the presentation. Today is Tuesday, March 28th, 2017. We still find ourselves in pre-RV purgatory. However, the information that I'm receiving looks good because everything seems to be moving in the right direction. Because things seem to be moving in the right direction and so many of the quote-unquote gurus are so bullish on the imminent revaluation, at least of the Iraqi dinar, we have been inundated with calls for new trusts and service calls and things of that nature. I've spent most of my time today, unfortunately, on the phone trying to resolve lots of little loose ends that people have, questions that people have. I've probably got another dozen people that I need to call. I will be making those calls this afternoon after this call. So if you've contacted us in the last 2 or 3 days and you haven't heard from me, by now you will hear from me this afternoon after this call. For those of you that are new to our call, we welcome you. We have a very simple format. We spend just a few minutes talking about the revaluation of these currencies. We spend a little bit of time talking about the program that we've put into place to assist you, and then we have a brief Q&A. So I'm going to move quickly through the information that I have. There's a lot of back-channel communications taking place globally. There's a lot of things being done on a lot of different levels. I could be on the call for over an hour just talking about all of that, but that's not our purpose here. We're here to assist you to get your affairs in order. The determination about the purchase of currencies is your affair and your matter. So let's just go ahead and get to the bottom line with the information as I've distilled it. First, I want to talk about Prime Minister Abadi from Iraq. He has had some very productive meetings with President Trump. We also have the meetings now of the Arab Summit, which he's going to attend. Abadi has announced the release of coinage, and he's also announced the imminent liberation of Mosul within a matter of weeks. That's all good news. All of his discussions with President Trump, particularly having to do with the United States' continued assistance with terrorism and the reconstruction and infrastructure, have gone well. The only, what I would call, somewhat negative comment that Abadi has made, and as far as I'm concerned, this was a shot at the Obama administration, not at Trump. But he says that he hopes that that Donald Trump will provide the support that he was promised but never quite received from the previous administration. And I think the answer to that question is pretty much yes. Now, with regard to Mosul, and as I mentioned, Abadi was talking about the eradication of ISIS within a matter of weeks. The liberation of Mosul is a three-phase process. In a larger context, the liberation of Anbar province. Phase 1 is the eradication or elimination of ISIS forces. Phase 2 is establishing a presence of the Iraqi National Guard locally and the Army of Baghdad in order to ensure that ISIS does not return. And then, of course, the rebuilding of the infrastructure, at least the important human services, electricity, water, power, the roads, etc. With regard to banking, Abadi announced that there is conducting an international audit through the CBI of the banks of Iraq. Basically, this is a last-minute snapshot before they go ahead and leave the program rate. And, of course, the objective of the banks in concert with the elimination of the 3 zeros is to move to a digital system and remove the hard currency. Now, the advantage of this is corrupt officials that have been hoarding currency are not going to be able to do so much longer, and individuals that are not, in fact, citizens of Iraq who may have acquired some of the provisional currency illegally are going to find themselves out in the cold, because once they switch to the digital system at some point, those nationals or people within the boundaries of Iraq are not going to be able to take that to the bank and have it rolled over into the new digital Iraqi dinar. Now, there are a couple of laws that need to be tweaked. One is the National Reconciliation Law. As you know, there have been annual reconciliation conferences. Incorporated in those conferences were the original Erbil reforms. The finalization of that law will take place as soon as the announcement of the liberation of Mosul is made. And again, according to a body, that should be within weeks. With regard to one other law, there is the finalization of the hydrocarbon law. There is a segment of that law, the National Oil Company Law, which is incorporated within the hydrocarbon law. That needs to be tweaked too. Neither of those things should take very long. They've gotten far along in the process. So everything is being aligned. The stars are being aligned for everything, the finalization of a variety of things to be taken care of. Lastly is the currency reforms. As you know, the bulk of the over 90% of the provisional currency has been collected. The CBI has finally announced the imminent release of the 150,000, 100,000, and 50,000 notes. Now, these notes are not going to be available to the general public, at least not initially, until the revaluation takes place. But these notes are necessary for bank-to-bank transactions within Iraq. And also, once the Iraq comes out of the program rate, these denominations are going to be necessary to pay international contracts for balance of payments internationally. So, once again, everything seems to be moving in the right direction. I'm gratified that we did not see a revaluation in the last 2 weeks of the first quarter. I've discussed this many times. I'm not going to belabor the issue, but for our newer callers, we never want to see a revaluation at the end of a quarter for two reasons. Number one, we do not know what the tax implications are going to be. And number two, not knowing what the tax implications are, we would be forced to exchange a substantial amount of currency just to pay a tax. And, of course, if the currencies are to come out at an artificially low float rate, the currencies that we would exchange to pay a tax, we will have lost the appreciation on that. Hang on just 1 second here. I see something on my screen. Okay, no, I'm going to unlock it. Just a second. I'm still not 100% up to snuff on the new screen that we have here, but I think I've resolved that issue. So basically, that's the information we have. Now, ideally, if we were to have a revaluation by, say, May 15th, even as late as June 1st, that would give us 6 weeks before quarterly taxes would be due on July 15th. That would probably give us sufficient time to get commitment from the IRS in writing as to what the tax implications of this revaluation are. It would also allow us to hold the currency for 4 or 5 weeks if it should come out at an artificially low float rate in order to allow the currency to further appreciate. So, as I said, today is the 28th, so we'll be into April before you know it. And like I say, if we have that revaluation in the next 6 weeks, we're going to be golden from both a tax standpoint and an investment standpoint. Now, for those of you that are new to the call and have not as yet gotten your affairs in order, this gives you time to do so. Now, you may not know what that entails, but Trust Unlimited has put a program into place to assist you both pre-RV and post-RV. It's a two-phased approach. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts and the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Phase 2 is post-RV, involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts. Very simply, a trust is a legal instrument one can establish to hold, manage, and to protect assets. Trusts can fall into some basic categories. For example, a trust can either be revocable or it can be irrevocable. In order to have the asset protection you're going to need and want, you're going to need to establish a package of irrevocable trusts, and that package must be established prior to the revaluation of these currencies for the following reasons. First, by establishing your pre-RV asset protection trust and assigning your currencies on paper to that trust, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because assets held within an irrevocable trust are sealed, and the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing your pre-RV trust, you will avoid personal IRS scrutiny because you will be transferring the taxable event of the revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. If you're holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will automatically spit out an audit, and with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. That's going to be time-consuming, it's going to be frustrating, and frankly, it's going to cost you substantially more than the cost of an asset protection trust. On the other hand, if you have assigned your currencies to your pre-RV trust, the taxable event of the revaluation will occur within the trust. There's less than a 10% chance of an audit from the IRS if you have a trust, but even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit of the trust. They can only audit the only taxable event to occur, the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV trust package is if you plan on doing gifting of currencies to family and friends in certain situations. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to gift currencies prior to their revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or simply giving them the lump sum after you have done the exchange, then by all means you can gift them the currencies outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you're gifting to individuals that you're hesitant to give them the lump sum, then gift to them through your trust. By gifting through your pre-RV trust, you will avoid a 40% gift tax. The language of the trust will allow you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning you can gift the exact dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. And because you're gifting through the trust, you will have complete control of the post-RV proceeds, which you can then distribute as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this package of pre-RV trusts is because they're structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now that estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with the probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years and even decades. And your heirs will either have limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's the federal estate tax, the tax that the federal government assesses in order for you to transfer your estate to heirs. Under current law, the first $5 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax, but the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Scenario number 2. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs in a state of $25 million in our asset protection trust. As a result, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this package of pre-RV asset protection trusts is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer those currencies to your trust. Those currencies subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather large, decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has two immediate problems. First, aside from having a very strong case, he better have very deep pockets as well, because this trust is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue a civil suit. Second, once the prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be the pre-RV value of $5,000 and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. The second benefit, a post-RV benefit, I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This is accomplished through a strategy called segregation of assets, creating a package of trusts, and this is how it would work. Again, we'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar, transfer it to trust, the currencies revalue for $25 million. Now you have $25 million in trust. So you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and maybe an RV. And as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust. Now, why is this important? Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you, but remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs are left to sue the owner of the car you were driving. And who owns that car? One of your subtrusts. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole, and all of your other assets are safely protected in other subtrusts. And this is exactly the scenario that would ensue if you or any of your other assets ever got involved in a civil proceeding. So by way of a metaphor, your package of trusts work very much the way a barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits, again, are lost to you if you do not establish your trust prior to the revaluation of these currencies. Now, as far as Trusts Unlimited is concerned, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trusts, you will be eligible to participate in all of the product, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation. And these are very important services. I'll just give you one example. We will be hosting a post-RV seminar in Disney World, Orlando, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist and instruct you with the management and funding of your trust post-RV. We will also have our tax specialists there. Our offshore specialists will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, you can substantially reduce and even eliminate future taxes on the reinvestment of the proceeds from the revaluation. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. It's critical that you reposition funds as quickly as possible after the revaluation of these currencies for a variety of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to mismanagement and inexperience. So you're going to want qualified professional assistance as quickly as possible. Second, we know that the new G20 bank bail-in provisions stipulate that when a bank fails in the future, the governments will no longer be bailing that bank out through the general taxing authority of the government, but they will first go to confiscate a portion of the funds from the account holders at those banks. So you're going to want to get your money out of the banks and at work as quickly as possible. And lastly, we know that the global reset is a shift from fiat-based to commodity-based currencies, and that in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile markets, and you're going to want to protect assets as best as you can. Now, many of you have expressed desires to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. We can assist you with establishing those entities, and the proper way to fund them is by transferring funds directly from your asset protection trust to these newly formed entities. Now, our trust product is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust, one optional gift subtrust, and 8 blank subtrusts. This was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But a few years back, when we decided that we wanted to assist Dinarians, we knew that that price tag was going to be simply unaffordable for most of you. And so we back-end loaded post-RV and restructured that trust. In so doing, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. Now, there are a number of ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we will discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we have a deferred payment plan. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which would basically defray our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. This way, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for establishing your trust pre-RV will be in a position to afford to do so. One last suggestion. We do accept credit cards. You pay us up front with a credit card, not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on that card will be less than the $100 a month you'd pay us for our deferred payment plan. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to do everything we can from our end to make sure that these trusts are available to you prior to the revaluation of these currencies, and that we can assist you with our professional referrals after the revaluation of these currencies. Now, that's the basic information I wanted to provide for today. I'm going to go to the Q&A in just a moment. But before I do, for our newer callers, I want to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider allowing us to assist you. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 37 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the revaluation of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 77 years' experience working precisely in this area, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. It's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them. And invariably, it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is now identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, control, and protect everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you're holding an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives, both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. Again, thanks for listening to the call. We're going to the Q&A in just a moment. Before we do, and again for our newer callers, you will be getting our contact information. Contact us, get our initial package. There's absolutely no obligation on your part by getting our package. It has a lot of valuable information. You can review it. You can contact us if you have any questions, and there will be no consultation fee. We're here to assist you in every way that we possibly can. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A. When I open the Q&A, if you'd like to ask a question, just dial *6. And when I call your area code out, if you'd be kind enough to just give us your first name and where you're calling from, we'll be happy to entertain your question. 2 quick rules on the Q&A. We take no service calls on the Q&A. If you're an existing client, you can contact us by phone or by email. And if you have contacted us in the last few days and you have not heard back from me as yet, you will hear from me later today. Second, we have a number of people on our call under anonymous. We're okay with that. We're happy to provide our basic information to anyone that's willing to listen. But your name and number must be on the screen in order to participate in the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I want to give you our basic contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to iqdcalls.com, go to Trusts Unlimited and follow the prompts, or you can dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon with the exception of the last 2 digits. Rather than dialing 40, you'll dial 39, and you'll use the same access code, which is 739-394-pound. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated, and you will be on our email list within 24 hours. Now, we only send out emails very periodically pre-RV, but after the revaluation of these currencies, a substantial number of emails will be going out, perhaps even daily. So you're going to want to get on that list in order to get that valuable information. Now, it looks as though we have one gentleman here in the queue. So you're up, sir. Area code 208. That's 208. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. Appreciate the call. My name is Victor, and I'm from Idaho.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like clarification on, in this type of trust, does it put any other person between me and my assets in the trust?
Yes and no. In order to have asset protection, the trustee of the trust must be a third party. Now, one of the reasons we utilize the Wyoming spendthrift provisions is because it gives you a substantial amount of latitude with this individual. For example, the person that you would name as a third-party trustee will sign a document naming you as their advisor. If you, for any reason, are dissatisfied with their performance, you can, of course, replace them. You also may take assets out of the trust if you wish. So at the end of the day, you will be able to control the assets with your ability to renominate trustees or to remove funds from the trust if you wish.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is, does that mean that I am the sole trustee or the executive trustee?
No, you are. Let's talk about this. You are creating the trust. That makes you the grantor. You are also the beneficiary of the trust. Your successor beneficiaries are the people that will eventually inherit your trust. The trustee is the person that will manage assets. However, this person is not independent in the sense they can do whatever they want. Once again, they will sign a document naming you as their advisor, and you will have the ability to replace them if you're not comfortable with their activities.
Okay, so who does this third-party person, who are they? Someone that I would name is what you're saying.
Anyone that you would name other than a spouse.
Okay, so that could be anywhere in the world, or is it limited to just the USA?
Well, it wouldn't be practical to name someone on the other side of the country or on the other side of the planet, but theoretically you could do that. You're going to want to name someone that it's convenient to get things done, not that you're going to need to get together frequently, but on occasion there are going to be transactions that the trustee will need to be present. For example, if you were purchasing a home and placing it in trust, the trustee would sign a document accepting that asset into the trust.
Okay. All right. One other question, Jim. According to the laws of the land in the USA, is this considered a statutory law?
No, this is not a statutory trust. This is a common law trust.
Okay, that's okay.
Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, because I'd like to hear your comment.
For example, a revocable trust is established primarily to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate. Probate is regulated statutorily, so you create a revocable trust, conforms to the laws of your estate, and you would actually be the trustee of that trust. That would be a statutory trust, and it provides no asset protection. So that trust would not, allow you the privacy or the anonymity or the asset protection. That's why you would need to establish this common law trust in order to accomplish that.
Okay, so basically it's going to be governed by common law, and it's an irrevocable trust, correct?
Correct. But remember that you can irrevocable does not mean unamendable or disgorgeable, meaning that you can take assets out of the trust if you wish, and you can amend the terms of the trust, including replacing the trustee.
Okay. What is the duration of these trusts? Is it 25 years, 50 years, or do they have to be renewed occasionally?
These things are perpetual, but you can renew them every 14 years, but they'll continue as long as there's assets within them.
Right. So basically the trust never dies. It just continues.
And essentially that's the objective. Even with a revocable trust, the theory is what creates probate is that a person dies with assets titled to themselves, and the chain of title has been broken. That's what allows the state jurisdiction to step in and distribute the assets. When you create a revocable trust, that trust becomes the title holder of the assets. So even if you're incompetent or you pass away, there's been no break in the chain of title. The trust instructs where the assets are to go, and so the state has no jurisdiction. When you have an irrevocable trust, you put on top of that the fact that you have asset protection from civil suit as well.
Okay. Next question, Jim, is I believe what you're saying that your type of master trust would be domiciled in the state of Wyoming. Is that correct?
No, your trust would exist in whatever state you live in. In the event that you were being sued, and pursuant to the trust code of Wyoming and the trust itself, the trust would retroactively to the date of inception be domiciled in Wyoming, meaning that a prospective plaintiff would have to go to Wyoming in order to sue. They'd have to pay a bond, they'd have to hire a Wyoming attorney, and they would have to go through a rather rigorous civil proceeding. So that's why we've utilized the Wyoming trust. But prior to a civil suit, and 90% of the people may not ever have an issue with civil suits, but prior to any civil suit, you're going to operate on a day-to-day basis as though you don't even have a trust because it'll be functioning in your own state. Remember, it's a common law trust, not a statutory trust.
Right. Okay, I appreciate you answering my questions. I think that's all that I have right now.
Now, I do have your number from the screen, Victor. If you would like, I'm happy to give you a call, answer any other questions, and if you decide you want a package, I can send it to you. Okay.
I'd appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Okay, you take care.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, our next caller is area code 321. That's 321. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. This is Ron from Florida.
Hey, Ron. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'd like to comment on the previous gentleman's situation. Being that the trust is a common law trust, it is also a private contract.
Correct.
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
And being a private contract, it cannot be interfered with by the authorities. It cannot be broken, cannot be circumvented.
The only way this trust could be pierced or circumvented, like with any other contract, is if the parties engaged are incompetent, medically and or psychologically, rather, or they have committed some sort of a fraud. So if you're not crazy and you're not breaking the law, you're correct. It's a private contract and it's airtight.
Okay. Also, being the settlor and the beneficiary, you have full control of our trust, or the trust that you're presenting, and the successor beneficiaries can be family or non-family, but they cannot be a trustee or a protector.
Well, almost correct. A trustee can be a successor beneficiary. A trustee cannot be a primary beneficiary. But, for example, many people name children that are over 21 as trustee. That child is not a primary beneficiary, but with this trust product, they can be the successor beneficiary, and that's another benefit this trust product has.
Yes, but only if on your demise they immediately discharge themselves as trustee and assume the successor beneficiary position.
Now, see, you're being a lawyer here, Ron. We don't want to give them all of that.
Yeah, but you can get in trouble if you don't know the ins and outs.
Well, of course, if anything of that nature would happen, we'd be there to assist them. So, we deal with things as they come along. But anyway, I appreciate the call, Ron.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Sure. Bye-bye. Okay, that was our last caller for today. Again, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to the call. If you're a new caller, contact us. Get our initial package. It's got a lot of valuable information. There's absolutely, looks like we have, no, we don't. We don't have any other callers. We'll assist you in every way. If you have questions, you can contact us. There'll be no consultation fee. So our next call is scheduled for Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. Have a great afternoon.